Respectful Interactions, Disability Language and Etiquette was produced by the Northwest ADA Center at the University of Washington. This movie is a combination of parts 1 through 4 of the module People Who Use Wheelchairs. The Northwest ADA Center is a member of the ADA National Network. These materials were developed under grant number H133A110015. However, the contents do not necessarily represent the policy of the Department of Education, and you should not assume endorsement by the federal government. Let's talk about interacting effectively with people who use wheelchairs. Here's a question for you. When talking to someone who is using a wheelchair, what should you do to facilitate conversation? Find a chair and sit down so you are both on the same level. Stand pretty close so he or she can see you more comfortably. Or kneel down to be at eye level. Let's hear what Don has to say about this question.
You know, oftentimes I get asked questions about what's the best way to hold a conversation with someone. And sometimes, you know, a lot of it depends upon the situation and how tall you are. Like I had a boss that was about 6'6", and when he'd come stand right next to me, it was like staring up at the skyscraper because he was so tall. And in other situations, I've had people that have come up to me and sort of, you know, try to get in like a catcher's position to talk to me. And I'm sitting, and the whole time they're trying to talk, I'm thinking, man, those knees are going to blow out in a second. And so what I try to do is go and find a chair that so we both can be at eye level, because I appreciate their sensitivity, but I also appreciate the fact that your knees weren't made to do that. And so when you're interacting with someone in a chair and they're naturally shorter than you, try to find some way to be at eye level if possible. And that may mean adjusting the space that you're in, because you don't want to be too close, you don't want to be too far away, you don't want to feel like you're shouting at someone across the room or talking really loud so they can hear you above everybody else and those kinds of things. So just you know, try to find a chair, or you know, if because I think that's the best thing to hold a conversation where you both can comfortably be at eye level with each other. If you're comfortable kneeling, that's up to you, and then standing back sometimes also helps. I just recommend you don't try to do all three at the same time.
Here's another question about wheelchairs. A person's wheelchair is a significant part of an individual's personal space, a good place to hang a coat, or a piece of mobility equipment. Listen as Don gives some of his ideas about this subject.
When you think about etiquette around a person that uses a wheelchair, I think it's important to remember that a person who uses a wheelchair is a lot like the way you wear shoes. It's a significant part of your personal space. And just like you wouldn't come up and start kicking somebody in their shoes, you don't want to come up and start kicking someone's tires or kicking their frame or playing in their spokes and that type of thing. And I've had all of those events happen, or people to use the frame of my chair as if it was a footrest or something. And it's really none of those things. It really is just a piece of mobility equipment that really enables me to get from point A to point B and takes the word confinement out of my experience with disability.
It's necessary to provide easy access to services for people using wheelchairs in places such as banks, hotels, fast food restaurants, and government agencies. Think about this question. A service counter that is too high impedes visual communication, auditory communication, or exchange of tactile information. Don tells why this feature is important to him.
Sometimes when you don't have a lowered counter, my voice will get lost in translation, or yours will kind of go over the top of me and I can't hear you. And I know a lot of times when I go to a bank or when I go to a counter where that's not accessible, whether it's at a hotel or something like that, they'll ask me a question and I'll speak my answer, and they'll get up on their tiptoes and say, "What'd you say?" And I'll say it again, and sometimes we sort of miss each other in communication. Or she'll mumble something up over the top of the counter, and I missed it because it went, just as far as the audio waves are concerned, it went right over my head, literally. And so we have a little problem in communicating when you don't have a cutout counter. So just remember that sometimes, is that when you're communicating, it's really kind of hard to talk through a counter that's not accessible, and take some steps to try to reduce or marginalize that auditory barrier.
Opening a door for anyone is a common courtesy, right? What do you need to be aware of when opening doors for people who use wheelchairs? That they may prefer to open the door for themselves? That they do appreciate your assistance? Or that there is enough clear floor space for the wheelchair to move through the door? Don describes how to avoid an unpleasant situation.
One of the things that really bothered me after I first started using a wheelchair was the number of people that went racing past me to open doors for me. And it got to the point where it would be a race between me and them. I tried to get there before they did so I could open the door for them. But over time, I realized that they were just being nice people, and that was part of their culturization of, assisting people. And so I sort of backed off of it. But, one of the things I did learn, though, that there probably is a better way of opening doors than some of the people that I ran into demonstrated. For instance, one lady stood on the latch side of the door and put her arm out to hold the door open so I could get through it. And there really wasn't enough clear floor space to get over her toes and between the door without, hurting her. And I always thought to myself, and I developed this into response, and I would say, "Ma'am, I have a collection of toes at home. If you'll move yours over there, you can take yours home with you." Because it was just kind of funny to people think that just because the door's open that there's room, and because somebody else is holding it, there's room. But oftentimes you need to not only open the door, but get out of the way of the clear space needed to get through the door as well.